Welcome back, everybody. Today we are talking Verasity VRA. There has been a lot of recent news coming up. We're going to talk about the most recent FUD that is definitely affecting the price and probably will continue to affect the price here in the near future. So we're going to cover what is going on with that. We're going to dive into the most recent roadmap updates and then also talk a little bit about the chart and price analysis, getting into where we're going to be going here short-term, long-term from a chart perspective. So let's dive right in. I definitely want to talk about the FUD first. That's what's top of mind right now for Verasity holders. And I'm sure if you're following the project, you've seen some of this on Twitter so far. But really what comes down to it is there was a recent update to Veracity's terms and conditions as well as their white paper. And what people are calling out is that they're realizing that there is no guarantee built into the T's and C's and in the white paper in terms of commitments for both the token minting, so POV future VRA tokens minting, or additional just normal VRA tokens on the chain being minted, as well as burns. So no guarantees for mints or burns. That's been really catching people's eyes. The other thing too is that Verasity is giving no warranty or promise that these proof of view tokens will be treated differently from VRA tokens, or that they will not enter exchanges and be sold. Now, why this is stirring up so much controversy is that before, a lot of the team leads of Verasity, so Mark, the CEO, as well as Elliot Hill, who's their kind of head of communications and marketing, as they've been speaking to the community, they've always kind of held firm that these POV tokens were going to be taken care of. They're not going to enter that circulating supply for buying and selling. It's just for Vera views. That's kind of been the narrative that they've struck up, and this is going in direct contrast to that narrative. So it's pissing a lot of people off. I was a little bit shocked to see it, but I've had some time to process it, and I can kind of give you guys my take as to why I don't think it's as as negative as a lot of these folks are taking it. So now that we have the idea of what's been put out there on Twitter, what's been put out there in the ether, we're going to take a look at Mark's response, and then we're going to dive into why this may not be as big of a deal as it looks, or you may think that this answer is not good enough, right? So let's go over to Mark's answer really quick. So he's saying that this language in the token disclaimer has been there on advice of Veracity's legal counsel, and that it's not going to affect the status of the POV migration. Now, if you've been following Verasity, you know that the proof of view token migration is one of the biggest topics of discussion for the community, because really what it's doing is these 100 billion tokens out here in CoinMarketCap that we're seeing, 90 billion of these are proof of view tokens, right? They're going to be meant to be used to track data and support the proof of view model for Vera views and that product, right? But what the real true circulating supply of VRA should be is right around 10 billion. Now, this has been a problem for as long as I can remember. I mean, at least over a year, right? And so it's been a top concern because when you go to CoinMarketCap, these other exchanges, it looks like there's going to be a massive supply dump, right? And people who are coming in to purchase a crypto and they want it to pump, they do not want to see a lot of potential unlocked tokens and additional supply coming into the project before they buy it. So that's really kind of, in my opinion, and a lot of others' opinions that I've seen, it's halted the success of the price action for Verasity for quite some time. So Mark and the team have been saying they're going to address it. They have been saying April is when that's going to begin, the migrating it from one blockchain to another. So essentially they'll have a 2-blockchain ecosystem, POV tokens, and then also the Verasity tokens to buy and sell on the other chain. But again, basically what Mark is saying is that this is not going to affect this kind of FUD, and this update to their T's and C's and white paper is not going to affect the POV migrations, and that the POV tokens are actually going to have additional functionality for running clients and value distribution systems in terms of reward mechanisms. So I will say that, I mean, that this is kind of a CEO type of answer, but what I do think he points out a good piece here is saying that it really is just legal language, right? When you go back to it and think of what they're saying here, right? Even though it's not necessarily good news, they have to cover their asses, right? Hacks are common in crypto, right? Exchanges get funky, something goes wrong. There is a small chance, be it a chance, that something goes wrong with the POV tokens. They somehow get unlocked and go into the rest of supply, right? There's always, not that the team would necessarily do that, but there's always risk, right? And so this legal language, T's and C's, white paper legality. It's all to prevent that 1%, 0.5% chance of something going wrong so that people can't sue the company into oblivion, right? And so I do think while this is, I can see why at face value it's pretty concerning. I do think that it's simply legal language saying, let's cover our butts here. And in case something does happen, let's make sure that we have the legal piece taken care of, that we say this in our T's and C's. Now, that's the glass half full perspective. The glass half empty perspective is that this team does not have the investors and the investors' interests in mind going forward, and they could get a little bit shady about how they leverage the POV tokens. And I will say that this FUD does call out a lot of risk with Verasity. If they do not figure out this migration to the POV blockchain for those POV tokens, there's going to be some concern down the line, right? That I think patience will eventually run out, and it really just depends. If they're not able to get that done inside of the next couple of quarters, people are going to start getting restless because they've been promising it for so long. I've held VRA for quite a long time, and I've been seeing them say this over and over again. So I think it's about time they just fix it. And I know it takes time. It's going to be complicated, but in my opinion, it will hold back Verasity until they get that fixed. I do think it's going to have a downward pressure on the price. And we're just being realistic, right? I want it to go up as well. But let's be realistic about the fact that right now it looks like there's a bunch of tokens that are going to be let into the supply, and no one wants to buy a token where that's the case. So now that we've covered that and you understand my view on it, I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts in the comments, everybody. I mean, this is a very, very interesting time for Verasity. I think we're kind of at a breaking point between, okay, will the team actually figure this out? And is this going to be a long-term successful project? Because the idea is great, the tech is great, but the community is starting to get a little bit restless. And there's always those folks that blindly follow or blindly FUD. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like to be, kind of looking at both sides of the coin as best I can. But at the same time, we're here as an investment, right? We want the coin to go up. And, the fact of the matter is this 100 billion supply thing with the POV tokens is keeping the price down. So now that we've covered that, let's jump into the roadmap really quickly. This is a snapshot of their 2024 roadmap. And we're seeing a heavy skew towards improving the product, which I do love to see. I think Verasity has always done a great job from a marketing perspective. And now it needs to back that up and get more folks into the product and start bringing in substantial revenue. So you're going to see here in Q1, doubling down on Vera Wallet and Proof of View. And then you're going to see here Q2, a lot of Vera Views updates coming into the fold. Many of it is just making sure that the product is easy to use and easy to onboard new publishers for. So you're going to see things like playlist management, video library management, all to make that user experience better for the client or the publisher coming in to actually use Vera Views as a product and detect those fraudulent views to take away from the money that they're putting into that ad spend. So again, as we all know, very, very valuable tool. It all just depends on how they're able to execute. And we're going to go down here to Q3 as well. We're seeing more Vera Views and Vera Wallet improvements. What I will say that was slightly concerning to me is, given how much of a focus the POV tokens have been for the community and how top of mind it is for every investor in VRA, and Mark and the team know that, they don't have anything here on the roadmap talking specifically to the POV tokens being moved. They have just this piece, right? So they say the POV marker tokens, a beta test with selected layer 1 chains to move. But again, they're saying that the process is going to begin in April and be finished quite soon after that, where this makes it seem like more they're just kind of dipping their toes in the water. I could be getting nitpicky, and maybe this is also legal language. They don't want to promise anything. But at the same time, with how much of a focus that is for the community, I would expect to see more of that rather than just this one sentence in their Q2 plan for 2024. So that's kind of my only couple of call outs. I love the focus on the product. I think that's great. But I also would have loved to see a little bit more focus on the POV marker tokens being moved, just to address some of that coming from the community. Now, let's go into a little bit of the charts just really, really quickly. We are at a pretty key point right now. And if I take away this fib really quick, that's going to become pretty clear. So right now, this is the weekly chart we're looking at. We're at a really, really key area, both for psychological support and resistance, as well as just the chart fundamentals. So we're right now hovering right around 1 cent, which has been a huge psychological support and resistance in the past. Here's that becoming resistance right here. This is back in February. And then obviously we come up close to that again here in November of last year. And then again, this year we're coming right down, trying to turn this 1 cent spot into a established support just in this last week. And you're going to see that obviously we've been kind of playing in this channel just for the past few weeks. These last 3 weeks have been pretty red, but that's to be expected when you have a big green candle like that on a week. But right now, the really, really key factor that I'm seeing for Verasity is holding that 1 cent mark, because that would validate this flipping from resistance to support. And that gives us a chance to bounce and come out of this little wedge and then take a beat upward. So really, if we don't finish this next week above 1 cent, I would not be surprised if we drop back down and potentially even hit this 200-day moving average. And this is probably hard to see if I can zoom in here. But I wouldn't be surprised if we come back down and tap this 200-day moving average, which at that point will probably be somewhere around here. So, an 008 or a 007 mark. Would not be surprised if we come down there, maybe another, 15, 20%. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens, especially if we don't hold that 1 cent mark, just from a psychological and technical analysis standpoint. From an RSI perspective, we did become oversold when we took that last pump, but now we're back down to kind of the mid-range of the RSI. Still would like to see this drop a little bit further, but again, we're not technically oversold anymore, which is a good sign from a weekly perspective. But at the same time, everything is going to really hinge on what the community and everyone surrounding Verasity believes about the project. I think people who are bullish understand the power of the technology, but the problem is now becoming the support of the community from the team and working on this POV perspective. Because again, from a crypto investor perspective, having that unlockable supply, or at least the perception of it, is really holding back the price right now. If we are to break out of this area here and push to the upside, really what we'd be looking at is obviously finishing out the week above 1 cent, bouncing up here, and then we'd be looking at a short-term target of 2 cents to 1.5 cents, and then up to that 3 cent marker. And this is really going to be the big resistance we're going to have to pass in the short to mid term. And once we get up there, we can then start talking about some price discovery. So that's going to do it for me today. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know how you guys feel about the Verasity FUD, how you guys feel about the project, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.